Tonight is our first virtual event, and we hope to inspire you with the tools that you will need to succeed in 2025 and beyond. Tonight's theme is Reframing Your Vision. The definition of reframe is to change something, to change how it's expressed or considered, to change your plans or details. But at the end of the day, we're looking for you to rework, reevaluate, and re-examine how you get things done. As long as you're in the game, there's no permanent wins or permanent losses. Just remember that. So to help you, we have a heavyweight panel of subject matter experts, and I'm confident that you will be impressed by them. Dr. Modupe Akinola is a 4-time Harvard grad with a PhD, a MBA, a MA, and a BA. She is currently a professor at Columbia Business School, focusing on leadership, ethics, and stress management. I met Dr. Modupe as she was helping Chris Hemsworth, we know him as Thor, in the series called Limitless, as she was helping him manage through his fears and sort of over-planning and over-committing to things in his life. Dr. Ish Major is a board-certified psychiatrist who specializes in women, children, family, and substance abuse, and all things dating, mating, and relating. Okay, Dr. Ish. Dr. Ish was named to the prestigious list of America's top psychiatrists for the last 3 years and is recognized by the International Association of Healthcare Professionals as one of the leading physicians in the world. As an on-camera expert, Dr. Ish is co-host of WeTV's hit series, Marriage and Family Boot Camp, and he is the in-house advisor on Amazon's Prime Console Culture with Nick Cannon. Dr. Marcus Collins is an award-winning marketer and cultural translator. Now, if you like me, I'd never heard cultural translator till I met Dr. Marcus Collins. He is the former Chief Strategy Officer at Wieden & Kennedy, New York. He is a marketing professor at the University of Michigan and author of the best-selling book, For the Culture. And our final panelist is Norense Odiase, a former NC2A champion, mental wellness advocate, and host of the Mind Bully podcast, where he inspires others to silence their self-doubt, cultivate resilience, and live authentically with audacity. He is anchored in the faith of Jesus Christ, and Nora's strong beliefs is to preserve and encourage others to do the same. Welcome to the WayMaker Reframe Your Vision. Thank you, panelists. So we're going to start with some opening comments, and we're going to start with Dr. Modupe. Dr. Modupe, you know, we as Black people, we call doctors by their first name, not by their last name, all right?
That's how we do.
So we'll start with opening comments from you.
Thank you. And thank you for having me here. Thank you for having us here. I know when Louis came and asked if this was something I'd be involved in, his ask was based on the idea that so many right now are just in a down place. Whether it's the elections, whether it's stuff going on with your families, whether it's, who knows, the weather. And wanted us to get together to give thoughts on how to deal with that and to reframe. So I think of reframing, not just the vision as in what I want for myself in 2025, but I think of reframing as an everyday experience. When we step out of our beds, we do not know if it's going to be a good or bad day. You have no idea. So how do you practice reframing, not just when a big thing happens to you, but when you wake up every morning? And that's something that I study and also that I have to work on myself. They say that research is me search, and I study stress because I need to learn how to deal with stress better because I came out of an immigrant womb that was stressed. So a couple of tips that I would give, and these tips are actually based on my experience this morning. I woke up this morning in a little bit of a funk because of some work situations, some sad things that are going on with people. And I didn't even realize it. But I took my morning time, my morning meditation time, and found myself, and I did a check-in. I said, wait a minute, I'm down right now. And I had to say to myself, but that's okay. It's okay. So one tip, if you wake up and you feel like it's not the right moment, how can you be present with how you're feeling and just accept it and acknowledge it? And then ask yourself, what do you need? Because one of my philosophies is that we do have everything we need inside of us to be able to reframe. So I had to ask myself, well, what do I need right now? Well, I need to just feel the feels. And that's okay. Sometimes we think, oh, I need it to go away, that negative feeling. No, what if I just feel it? And if I'm present with it, then that will give me some insights. I can maybe be in a funk all day and say to myself, that's okay. But then one of the things I also realized is that I needed to talk to some good friends about the situation who could empathize. And so I shot one in a text and said, hey, do you have time to talk? They don't have time to talk today, but we've scheduled something for tomorrow. So one of the things that I know is helpful is having a community of supporters around you and being able to know what you need to be able to then lean on them. So I'll stop there because these are brief introductions, but if anything I want you to take away, it's you need to date yourself in trying to understand what you need to reframe the negative situation you're in, the stress you're feeling, the whatever it is that is bothering you in a particular day or a particular moment.
Thank you, Dr. Collins.
I mean, I love that so much. I'm so grateful to be here and be in such good, illustrious company. Louis, you always do a good job of curating the people. So I'm glad to be counted among this great host. I study culture and its influence and impact on human behavior. And what I've learned is that there's no external force more influential in human behavior than culture, full stop. The challenge, however, is that we know this intuitively, but our understanding of culture is so superfluous. It's so superficial that we don't really get a chance to not only fully understand what it is, but also give ourselves agency to navigate through it. So think about culture through a sociological lens, that culture is a system of conventions and expectations that demarcate who we are and govern what people like us do. And it's through this system that we make meaning, that we take a world that is messy, that is random, that is noisy, and we organize it and give it meaning. We give it substance through this lens by which we translate the world. So when we think about reframing is all about meaning making. It's about taking a theme, contorting it, bending it, giving it creating new signifiers of the things that we see. And every time I give a talk, every time I teach, I always start with the best thing I can give you is perspective, because things aren't the way they are the way that we are. And if we change the way we see the world, then the world will manifest differently. Therefore, ergo, to Dr. Modupe's point, that the idea of reframing is an active sport, not a passive sport. And if we actively say, I choose to believe the world is this way, you then give yourself agency and you empower yourself to navigate accordingly. And I think that for Black people in particular, Black folks, I mean, we're constantly reframing, retorting, recontextualizing, one would say remixing the world so that it manifests in a way that we feel is conducive and congruent with how we want to be counted among what we call our cohabitants of the world. So I'm grateful to be here.
Thank you. Dr. Ish.
Hello, hello, hello. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. I don't, if anybody's familiar with me, you guys know I don't mince words. So I'm going to drive right into a reframe, right? If we're telling the truth about it, Black people have been in a bad marriage with America for about 400 plus years now, right? And on November 5th, America finally asked for divorce. Think about our relationship with her. It's been abusive. It's been violent, unspeakably violent at times. It's been manipulative. It's been neglectful. It's been misleading. And like every horrible relationship, there's always just enough good times to keep you in it, right? And despite those conditions, not only were some of us surviving, some of us were actually sometimes miraculously thriving, right? Sometimes, somehow we made that happen. But now we've got to deal with the shock of being told to our face what she really thinks of us. And if I can say the quiet part out loud, that hurts. It's hard when the person you want, or in this situation, the place you want, doesn't want you back. So for a lot of us, it reconfirms the worst that we've been taught to believe about ourselves, which is that who we are isn't enough. Now, in psychiatry and psychology, even in cultural terms, we call that a trigger, right? So I want to connect the dots for us tonight between where we are now and your abandonment issues, between where we are now and your mommy wounds, between where we are now and your daddy wounds. If you've ever been through a bad breakup or divorce, this strangely, in a really weird way, feels a lot like that. A lot of y'all out there right now are stalking the news and stalking every single Trumpy story you'd stalking X online who you haven't gotten over yet. And you know I'm not lying. You're clicking on it every morning, you're clicking on it every lunchtime, every afternoon, and you're blasting out to your friends. I can't believe what they're doing now, right? You're stuck in that dopamine death spiral and you can't pull up. And I'll tell you what I tell all my clients who are stuck in the same place, right? When they feel abandoned, when they're feeling like they're lost. Kids get abandoned, adults get left. Let me say that one more time. Kids get abandoned, adults get left. Everybody on this call is a grown-up and has been left before. People you know and love have moved away. Co-workers have been swept away. Boyfriends, girlfriends have gone away. Loved ones, sadly, have passed away. And yet here we are. We're still here. We're still breathing. We're still fighting to try to find a way forward. When somebody leaves a child, it's a life or death situation because that kid can't drive. They can't go get a job tomorrow. They can't pay bills. They can't catch the subway to where they need to go. They can't go buy food. They certainly can't cook it. If we're looking at Maslow's hierarchy of those basic human needs, that's the first level that we need to survive, right? Physiological needs. We need food, water, warmth, and rest. The kid can't meet any of those needs on their own, but you, grown-ass men and grown-ass women and grown-ass people that we all can. So the part of this dark gift of a bad breakup is being able to set yourself free and tell yourself the truth about what you have. And more importantly, about what you don't. Being able to see your situation not worse than it is, not better than it is, but exactly, crystal clear how it is, right? On the other side of this, now you get to tell yourself the cold, hard truth about what's been missing. And now you get to feel empowered to ask for more, right? More of what you need, more of what you want without feeling guilty about it. And then if we're asking alone, that's going to be a hard lift. But if we can figure out a way to ask together, then we've got a shot. And if you're Black and you're in America, you know for sure that the only thing we need is that one shot, because we're going to take it every single time.
Thank you, Dr. Ish. And Norris, that's a great setup for you since you are a former NC2A basketball champion. So take your shot, Norris.
First and foremost, thank you for the ability to speak on here. Amazing to hear all the different perspectives of everybody on this panel. And for me, my angle for this is rooted in Christ. What he said, again, they asked to do a prepared statement, but for me, I don't flow like that. I just talk. But what he just said was a perfect moment to segue and to dig into. It's a hierarchy of needs. It's the physiological needs he was speaking on. But for me, it's like, when everything in a crisis, in everything in seasons, in times of our lives, where we're in December, we're going on to the new year, and there's so much change in our emotional life, in our relational life, in our work life. There's so much change. There's so much pain. When you don't know what is next, what foundation do you stand on? And I think it's so important in this stage of our lives. There's so many of us. I'm going to use me as an example, as a Black man, as a sport. You just said shooting your shot. For me, in the realm of NCAA professional sports, you place your whole worth in what you do. You place your whole worth in how you look. You place your whole worth in how much money you can make. You place your whole worth in a role, your dad, your mom. You place your whole worth in a title, but that's not who you are. And so when things change and, the society, your culture doesn't see you as, this basketball player, this perfect mom, this perfect dad, this perfect person. Who are you? What do you stand on? And for me, my foundation is Jesus Christ. And I know in that stage, when I'm rooted in that, when I'm destined to see through the eyes of faith, because again, this is beautiful. Reframe your vision, because you have a purpose, you have a mission, you have a calling for your life. And there's a lot of us that look to society to say, oh, what do they say about who I am? How much money I make, my potential, my perspective. That's not who God made you to be. God made you in purpose, for a purpose, to fulfill a purpose. And everybody on this call, I don't know, 127 of you are one of ones, and you have specific gifts that are aligned, assigned to you. And a lot of times we look to our job, we look to these different things to see, oh, where do we fit in the marketplace? You are the marketplace. I'm here to tell you, in times of transition, this isn't a psych job, it's a faith job. You are the marketplace. And so it's to spend more time, as we're with a lot of mental health professionals and relationship experts. I'm not any of them credentials, but it's to look at your self-awareness, spend time with introspection, self-reflection, to look at what you have inside, because God gave you something. Oh, the thing that everybody's like, dang, you always give me good advice. Dang, you always have a word. That's your gift. How can you exploit your gift to serve to the world in times of transition where everybody's looking at, oh, the election, I don't care who's at the top. I'm still me, because God made me here and he placed me here. And so it's so powerful that everybody's on this call, because it means you're searching, you're curious, you're suspicious of the God-given gifts that you've been given. And you're like, oh, somebody got more for me. I'm ready. There's so many people that are doing other things on a Tuesday night. You chose to be here, and I'm grateful to be here with you, and I'm grateful to have a conversation.
Thank you.
Well said.
Amen.
Dr. Modupe, the first direct question to you. The first time I saw you, you were working with Chris Hemsworth in a swimming pool, all right? His feet were tied, his hands were tied, and y'all dropped him in the deep end of the swimming pool, and he panicked. There are a lot of people who feel that drowning effect, whether it's mentally or emotionally. Tell us how you kind of worked him through that, because he went down several times before he got himself together. So those people who are drowning mentally and emotionally, talk to them right now.
So one thing that I always try to remind people when they're under stress is that our bodies were evolutionarily based such that our stress systems are designed to give us what we need when we are under stress. Okay? So you get that adrenaline, you get that cortisol, you get all this energy to prepare you to fight or flee. So the reaction that you're having is not this one that's always like a bad thing, it's preparing you for action. So one thing we need to remember is, okay, how do we then acknowledge what is stressing us out? And how do we pay attention to our emotions, our behaviors, and our bodies? So sometimes the worst thing you can say as a friend when someone's like, oh, I'm stressed, is don't be stressed. No, you're not. How many times has someone said that to you? And that is the wrong response. You need to ask them, okay, how are you feeling? And if every person can say, okay, when I'm stressed, typically I feel anxious. I snap at my partner, at my kids. I withdraw. I can't sleep. I go for the gummy bears, the wine, the smoking, the whatever you do. If you understand your emotions, your behavior, and your bodily response, that is the first step in acknowledging the stress that you're experiencing. Then the other thing to do is to think about how you can welcome that stress. And sometimes people are like, well, why would I want to welcome this stress? Well, you're stressed because there's something you care about. There's something beautiful underlying that stress. And so one of the things we need to do is get to the underlying reason why we care about something. So maybe someone is stressed right now because there's an exam that they're about to take, because it's the end of the semester. I'm in an academic setting, so I think about that. Or you might be stressed because we were talking about this a little bit before we got on. There are some holiday gifts and some people you love and they have not been purchased. Well, why do you care? What is it? Well, because I want that person to know that I love them. Why? Because they mean so much to me, and during the year I don't get to do so much to show them that. Why? If you keep on asking yourself why, you will get down to the, oh my gosh, this is somebody special. This is a special person or thing that I care about. And it takes you from the fear of not getting somebody a gift to the heart of why you might want to get somebody a gift, for instance. So welcome your stress. And then the third thing is to use it. As I said, our bodies were designed to help us get what we need when we're stressed. So one of the things when you're stressed, I want you to think about, what was the last time that I felt this way? What are some examples where I've done really well under stress? What am I going to learn when I make it through this stressful situation? Those are some things that you can do to remind you that this stress is not always a bad thing. It actually can be a good one, because you will learn so much more about yourself and resilience. So if I can put it all together, when you are feeling stressed the next time, I want you to acknowledge it. It is what it is. I want you to welcome it. You're stressed because there's something you care about, and then to use it because there is something beautiful that can come out of this.
Thank you so much. Dr. Marcus Collins, you know, you've kind of made this a living on culture, all right? And now there's a call to cancel culture. So speaking of a little stress, tell us how you are addressing this call all across America to cancel culture, which has had so much impact on this country.
Yeah, I think if it less is cancel culture, what it really is canceling accountability. The idea of canceling culture is canceling diversity, canceling equity, inclusion, belonging, all the things that have been assigned to helping the upliftment of those who've been marginalized, who've been othered, who've been eradicated, who've been erased, who've been eroded in society. And the truth of the matter is that for Black people in particular, like Dr. Ish said it perfectly, we have 400 plus year bad relationship. And that bad relationship has been predicated on exploitation, whether it's exploiting our labor, exploiting our cultural production, exploiting our presence in society. What we found in 2020 was a bit of a reckoning, a moment of solidarity, where folks were being called to task that their behaviors historically have been that of cultural appropriation and ultimately marginalization. And that moment lasts only for a second. And it says to me that people love the production, they love what we create, and they don't love us. So you can't cancel culture. All you can do is obfuscate accountability. But at some point or another, the debt has to be paid, whether it's here on earth or it's in heaven. It has to be paid. So to me, the idea of canceling culture is a foolhardy, erroneous take. And it's upsetting because we continue to find ourselves in the back of the line, despite the fact that we have built this society, we built this place that we call our country, that we call our home. So it's upsetting. But I think that it requires us reframing how we think about cancel culture for what it really is. Just as we saw the attack on critical race theory, the attack on wokeness, the attack on diversity. These are all reframes. And it's incumbent upon us to call it what it is, speak it straight, and act accordingly.
Thank you. Dr. Ish, I was watching Jeff Bezos in a clip this past weekend. He said something that was just really caught my attention. He said, we spend too much time worrying about risk versus looking at the opportunity. And he used this example how people, cross the street and the possibility of getting hit by a bus, all right? He said, people get hit by a bus a lot. He said, you would be surprised how many times people get hit by buses just crossing the street. He said, but do you stand on the side and don't take the risk when the opportunity is on the other side of the street? Because we are so afraid of the bus. Now, I think maybe when I was a kid, I saw a few people hit by a bus, but he was talking like people getting hit every day. So talk about risk versus opportunity, Dr. Ish.
Risk versus opportunity. Well, what a privilege it is to be able to have that Jeff Bezos 160,000 foot view of risk versus opportunity, right? It's really all a matter of perspective, isn't it? Right? So if you have those things that are protective when it comes to risk, well, you can take that risk, right? If you are crossing a busy street and you know that, you know what, I got on some motorcycle body armor, and I've got on a helmet, and I've got good health care insurance in the event something happens, well, you might take some risks. But if you know that I barely got my lights paid last week and I got to get to work tomorrow morning, if anything happens to me because of the kind of work I do physically, I can't get that job done. Well, now we got to reassess that risk in a whole nother way, right? Our idea of risk versus reward, we also, as Black people, we also think about how real is that reward going to be, right? What's my shot at it, right? What's the likelihood of me winning this lottery, right? Everybody on this call, I don't know if you guys know the numbers or not, by the time most of us are 23 years old, we're talking about Black men in this country, half of us are in jail or already dead. Think about that number. So we made it to 23, Jeff Bezos, we kind of won some of that lottery, didn't we, right? So now we can move forward and we can take the next thing. But the whole other thing about risk versus reward, Louis, is that you've got to have some type of blueprint, some type of roadmap, some type of idea of what's possible. Right? When I was growing up, I didn't have an opportunity to be around people like Dr. Collins. I didn't have a chance to be around people like Norense or Dr. Modupe, right? I lived in the country, was super isolated. So my idea of what was possible was based around on what I could see. And that was a very limited view. So look, on the one hand, yeah, Bezos, that's cool. I like what you're saying, right? And if there's the kernel or a nugget in there that we can pull out of, hey, take the chance. Sure, we can all understand that. But when Dr. Collins was talking about trying to cancel accountability, that's a very clever way of doing that, isn't it? Right? By saying, hey, well, but this is the 2025 version of pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. This is the 2025 version of what they told the Native Americans, endeavor to persevere, right? This is now, well, just take the risk. Okay, but if on the other side of that risk, I am at risk of damaging my Maslow's hierarchy, right? Where I don't have my physiological safety, I don't have my warmth, I don't have my water, I don't have my food, I don't have my security. For a lot of us in a lot of our communities, we're not worried about getting hit by a bus. We're worried about getting hit by a bullet. I've talked to 5 kids this week who lost a friend because she was in her bed sleeping while some guys outside were shooting up the neighborhood, right? So we're talking about a very different risk versus reward system. And so, yes, by all means, take the risk, but understand why we're having to take it in this first place.
Thank you. Norense, you came up in this sort of athletic environment where you've always got to be on, you've always got to be concerned about everything from what you eat to working out to be successful. How did you transfer that discipline, that focus into life? How did that happen for you? How did you build upon that? Because a lot of athletes can't transfer that success that they have.
I think that's a beautiful question, because I think it aligns with every stage or every person in this call, because after the game right now, I'll speak to my experience. Right now, I have a calling, a purpose, a mission for my life to be able to speak to hearts over mental health, and for men to overcome their negative voice. And walking away from the game, it's a transitional stage, and the discipline and the principles and everything that you learn from the game, and showing up early, staying late, those type of things, being able to deal with ambiguity. My teammate from Spain, my teammate from Germany, they speak different language. I got to follow suit. Those traits that discipline has been able to help me in this stage of my life. But to answer that question, how am I able to use it in my life? It's really, honestly, it's by my faith. It's not in the sports, because unfortunately, I have a lot of teammates that also, like Dr. Ish said, one of them this year lost their life and doing the wrong things. And I'm saying that because when there is a stage when you're away from the game, when you're away from your family, when you're away from friends, like I was in Germany, and I had the most money I've ever seen, 3-story house, nice living, everybody on the outside, oh, it looks nice, it looks beautiful, but on the inside, I was crushed. I was searching. I was seeking. I had a torn hamstring, concussion. I experienced prejudice from a coach that's Dutch and now has been fired twice in a time where everybody on the outside, again, this will help everybody on the call, because on the outside, the external, your shell, you can see and you can present like you got it all figured out. You nice, you got the money, you got the car, all your needs are met, but you still feel empty. There's an emptiness, there's a searching, there's a lack of something. And so you try to sedate those feelings. You try to push them down. Oh, you try to get with a girl. I've done that with girls. Oh, get with this drink, get with this pill, get with this, and nothing suffices. Nothing's good enough. And for me, that discipline that you speak of, I disciplined myself to go back to what was mama and daddy talking about when they said Jesus Christ back in the day. And I was just like, yeah, let me go with that. When I was in the real time and I met my maker in the second story in my room in Germany, in Bamberg, Germany, I'm crying. I'm just sitting there like numb. I got a text from my mom and she sent me a sermon and I met God again. And I'm saying that because when you have an experience, when you can't work your way out as an athlete, that's why I'm so glad you asked this question, because the discipline in me is like, oh, I feel pain. I'm just going to push through it. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to achieve. I'm going to prove. I'm going to prove. I'm going to prove. I was finally in a stage where I can't use my physical, my mental, I can't use me to do anything. So I have to say, oh, let me time out and say, I need to give it to someone greater than me, that made me, that designed me, that has a purpose for my whole life. Let me go back to the maker, my God, my Father, to be specific, Jesus Christ, to be able to console me. And that intimacy, that closeness, that connection, that relationship is why I'm able to speak with great fervor and great perspective, because it's like, I've experienced this, and that discipline, knowing, okay, God made me for a purpose. God made me in purpose. God gave me a gift. Okay, if we talk about reframe my vision, that's the vision. And once you have a vision, a clear picture for your life and what you can do with your gifts, your talents, your abilities, that disciplines you. You say, oh, that girl, she blowing up my line still, but I have a disciplined vision for my life. I know that will derail me off where I'm going. I can't do that. And so to answer your question, I can go on this for a long time, but it's really, once you have a vision for your life and where you're going and you see it, sight is a function of the eyes. Vision is a function of your heart. Sight is seeing what you see. Vision is believing in what you don't see. It's not about what I see, because what you see changes. And we all know this in our story. We look back, oh, when we was in grade school and all them kids picked on me. For me, I'm gonna use me as an example. I was big, blubber butt. They said gap. They said awawa, Nigerian booty scratcher. Now they look at me, they say, yeah, he fine, he got it. Yeah, because things change. But you got to have a vision for where you're going, how you're going, and not care what nobody say about you. I don't care policy, politics, all that. That's not my wheelhouse. My wheelhouse is being rooted in the kingdom. This ain't no religion message, because I don't consider myself religious, and praise God. Yeah, praise God. But I align myself by principles, promises and principles. I'm a kingdom citizen in the kingdom of my Father God, and I live my life accordingly, and I discipline my life to that. So,
thank you, Norense. So we're going to take some questions from our audience tonight. And Dr. Modupe, the first question is for you. A couple of months ago, you ended a TED Business episode explaining how you wound up doing academic research. Okay. Your path resonated with me. And in this context, it seems like a major reframe in your life, because I guess it was because you were at Bain Capital at one time, you were at Merrill Lynch at one time. They asked, could you give a little more details on how you got to where you are today?
So some of my path is driven by the fact that when I was in college, I did research with professors and I liked it, but I also had the business bug in me. And so I always debated between, do I want to do research and teaching or whatever, or do I want to do business? And I remember I hit this point at Bain where I was kind of like, my manager came in, they were talking about how they were thinking about what we were working on in the shower. And I was like, I don't think about this in the shower. I don't want to think about this in the shower. This work isn't interesting enough for me to think about in the shower. And so then I said, well, what do I want to think about? And one of the things I did was I went through each phase of my life and I thought about, okay, when I was feeling alive and happy and joyful in high school. What was I doing? Oh, I was working in teams. I was doing athletics. I was thinking through tough problems. Okay, interesting. When I was in college, what was I doing? What I love about my job in consulting? And those themes ended up being, I like being in hierarchical organizations where I'm learning from people who are really smart. I like working in collaboration with people. I like teaching and I like mentoring. So it kind of became like, well, academia could give me this. And I just walked you through that process for those of you who aren't sure about whether you should take the next step or whatever. Because if you think about all of those stages and write down what you were doing when you felt alive, that'll give you some insight into some non-negotiables in the job that you want or the job that's right for you. The other piece that was important for me was being courageous, aligned with what Norense has said. My faith journey has also meant being still, being quiet, and listening. And one funny thing that happened in that year that I made that transition, there were so many people in academia that reached out to me, separate from what I was doing, friends, this, that, the. So I was like, and check this out. One of my best friends from college, who I hadn't talked to in a minute, when I told her I was thinking about academia, she said, "Oh my God, I had a dream last week that you were going to be a professor." So one thing I want, we've talked about faith, we talk about in some of these questions and stuff, was about what do I need to do if I don't know where I want to be? And I would say you need to be still and shut up and wait and listen for the messages to come, because those messages can come from you, for you, or to you in so many different forms. And we sometimes think we have to do and vision board and whatever, but sometimes we just need to be, and the answer is right there in front of us. So that was my path, and I continue to have to force myself to be present and listen, because all of the opportunities that I've had thus far have typically come from me sitting there and being like, and then some of the puzzle pieces have come into to light.
Thank you. Dr. Ish, this is right up your wheelhouse. I'm going to read it verbatim. How do you handle a relationship where your partner voted Republican, but you did not? You are disappointed with the election results while they are happy with the election results. And I assume they must live in the same house, all right?
Yeah.
And it's an anonymous question, so maybe they both are on this call.
Right. Yeah. In different rooms, Louis, right? Somebody's somebody's in the kitchen, somebody's in the living room. Well, that's hard, right? So if I'm going to reframe that question, what I hear is, how do you resolve conflict within your partnership, right? How do you decide what we're going to have for Thanksgiving dinner? Are we going to do a ham, or are we going to do turkey? How do you decide where we're going to worship? If somebody is Muslim and somebody is Christian, are we going to go to church, or are we going to take our kids to the mosque, right? How do we decide which set of in-laws we're going to go spend Christmas morning with? Is it going to be yours or mine? So how do we resolve conflict, and how do we feel like we're growing together and not growing apart? So that's a great question, because this is one of those bombshell issues, right? This is one of those what I call an IED issue, which if you're not careful and you just kind of glide and ride over it, it's going to blow y'all out of the water, right? So what you've got to be is intentional about not tiptoeing around, dancing around, walking on eggshells about the issue, right? You've got to ask direct questions. Hey, right, I felt really hurt when you followed through and voted how you did, right? Because I felt like somehow you weren't understanding my issues, and I felt not supported by you. I felt that you didn't see, hear, and understand what some of the things were that I had been communicating to you beforehand. Help me understand how you got there, right? Because all we're looking for is understanding. We're grown folks. You're never going to change our minds on things, especially not these days, right? Most of us are baked in and locked in on what we think. So what you're wanting is to gain a measure of understanding. I want to know, help walk me through the process. And what you'll find, or what I've found, is that a lot of folks don't really walk all the way through the process. A lot of us are really in the habit now of playing the shorts on YouTube, and we're not watching the whole video to the end, right? Watch that video to the end and see how it turns out. And if that's the ending that you thought in your mind, then proceed. But if that ending is different or could possibly be somehow different from what you thought, then you may want to rethink your process, right? So it's, how do we resolve conflict? What do we need to resolve conflict? Well, we need to be seen, we need to be heard, we need to be understood. 90% of the issues that are happening in people's relationships are never going to get resolved. And the trick is, they don't really need to, right? Most of us feel better about resolving conflict by just being seen and just being heard. Hey, you know what? I hear what you're saying. Let me tell you how I got there, right? I totally didn't mean to slight you, diminish you, minimize those issues, because I get that they're important to you and they're important to me, but also these are the issues that were important to me, and that's how I got there, right? And so if both people can just simply be heard, right? Now, don't be fooled. This is not an exercise in talking. This is actually an exercise in listening, because that's how we resolve the conflict. The most powerful thing you're going to ever do is you're going to ask your partner a question, and you're going to implement, Louis, what I call that 18-second rule, where you're just going to shut up and see what they got to say and let them fill the space. Because what we get used to doing in our relationships is filling the space for them. We like to rescue our partner from these awkward, uncomfortable moments. I asked you a tough question, especially if you're asking me as a dude with some masculine energy, then I'm just going to sit there, because I know that feminine energy is going to rescue me in about 3, 2, 1 seconds, and I'm never going to have to answer that question. So get comfortable with those awkward, uncomfortable silences. Ask your question. Hey, walk me through. You did the Trump thing. Huh, that's interesting. Walk me through how you got there. And then shut it down for 18 seconds and see what they got to say. Not formulating your response. You're literally just listening and letting it land on you, because now you just have a better understanding of what you got. And remember what I said opening statements is, now you can tell yourself the truth about what you got, and more importantly, what you don't have and what you do and don't need.
Dr. Collins, this question was for me, but I'm going to pass that baton to you. Okay. How should Black consumers react to service providers and retailers who have publicly announced that they have dropped their DE&I programs?
I'd say, don't buy from people who don't see you. Don't buy from people who value your money over your existence. You know, essentially, when companies walk away from their DE&I efforts, oftentimes they fall in 2 or 3 camps. One is that their commitment to it was performative from the beginning. It wasn't real. They were doing it just to sort of pacify whatever social pressure they were getting. And once that social pressure de-escalated, they went back to keeping it real. Keeping it real was like, we don't care about y'all. For others, they actually believe, and they need to push. They needed some exogenous shock to the system to get them there. But unfortunately, their board of directors, their shareholders, perhaps their owners, if they aren't publicly held, they get pressures from them, and therefore, to keep their job, to maintain their stability, they fold. And in those 2 cases, you go, well, if you believe that the pressures are more important than my patronage, then I need to go elsewhere. And that's the beauty of all this. Like, that's like, as much as we can be, and I am a critic of capitalism, there is one silver lining, that you can always vote with your dollar, with your feet, with your eyes, with your attention, with your social capital. You can say, nope, I'm good, and go elsewhere. And we've seen this time and time again, especially with Black folks, right? There was a time where we were dripped in Tommy Hilfiger. Drip. Drip, right? All of us rocking Tommy Hilfiger. Tommy Hilfiger said something online. We were like, oh, really? We're done. Remember when everyone was drinking Cristal? Until they said something out of line, we're like, oh, word? We're done. This is the agency that we have. And I think that, like, you know, my mother used to always tell me, it's like, you need to know who you are, know your power, know who you are. And for us, we are the cultural producers of this country. And if you mess with me, I would say of this world. There is a ton of agency there. And not only do we have a ton of agency in what we create, what we produce and bring into the world, we have a ton of agency with what we decide, what we crown and knight as being cool. And therefore, there is a unbelievable amount of financial windfall that comes from that. So for people who are like, hey, the pressures are too much, they're more valuable to me than you, diverse voices, diverse people, Black people who make us cool, we go, bet, word up. And we take our social capital, we take our financial capital, we take all the cultural equity that we bring these companies, and we take them elsewhere, and we'll see what they say then.
That's great. Thank you for that. This comes from someone in Phoenix, Arizona, and they say, as a leader at work, cultivating culture with the school staff, how do you lead a group of helpers through these times that are directly hurting them? They're being targeted. How do you lead them?
Is that for me?
That's for any one of you who want to take that. Norris, I see you leaning in.
Ask the question one more time, please.
As a leader at work, cultivating culture, I guess they work at a school. How do you lead a group of helpers through these times that are directly hurting them? I'm assuming they are talking about those from Hispanic backgrounds who are clearly, because they are in Phoenix and they called that out, that are clearly being targeted.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think it's good to know that I don't have that specific classroom expertise, but if I'm putting it to a team, if I'm putting it to leadership in different jobs that I've had, I would say, if you have a group of people that you're trying to communicate a message to, and that you know them, that they're under your tutelage, it's about the relationships that you have, and it's not about the orders that you want done in the now. It's about knowing what they want from this job and knowing what the vision and the mission is for what you're doing, and to try to see their talents and their traits, and even in this moment, and to push and to motivate from that, knowing like, okay, I know this time is tough, this time is challenging right now for you, but basically pushing the bigger mission, pushing the bigger picture, because in everything, you can equate that to your experience. You can share a story where something didn't go right for you in the week, but you're showing up not because this is the check that you get. You're showing up for the mission and the vision that you have all together. It's about trying to align everything to the goal. It's not just about, oh, we're here for our job. No, it's about, how do I express everything that I've been given for me by Father God in this job? And how do I serve people from this time that we're in? It's about focusing on the relationship and the service. I believe that's helped me with teams and different organizations. And I think that aligns with you as well.
How do you ask for help and support as you're growing and trying to navigate your vision? What resources, environments did you guys tap into?
If I'm being honest, I'm still working on that, Louis. I mean, I think what I found is that it took a lot of humility for me. It's sort of setting aside ego, setting aside hubris to go, I do this well, but I don't do this well. And the only way that I'm able to realize my full potential is to find other people who can bring something to my situation and me to them. Norense, I like the way you keep framing things through the kingdom. We talk about the church being the body of Christ, and we are the church, us. Every member, like the pinky isn't more important than the knee. The eye isn't more important than the elbow, right? We all play a part and jointly fit into the body to be the best version of itself. I think it's that level of humility to say that I can only do so much by myself, but collectively together, greatness is far more obtainable. So for me, I'm working on that, Louis, which is why I call you so often.
That's great. And Norris, a secret, Dr. Marcus didn't tell you that he comes from a family of ministers, all right? So
okay.
I mean, seriously, like when you teed up Reframe, It's like, for me, all I could think about was, don't be conformed by this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. That everything is about changing the way you see the world. Like, one of my favorite movies ever is The Matrix. And, not to, look, it's been out for 25 years. Like, if you haven't seen it, you're never gonna see it.
Same.
But, like, Neo's in the Matrix, and, the little boy bends the spoon with his mind. Neo goes, "Whoa, how'd you do that?" And he goes, "You can't bend the spoon. That's impossible. It's you who bends." And I think as we think about this idea of reframing, I mean, every statement that's been made on this call today is just evidence of that. It requires us to bend. Like, the world changes based on our ability to see it differently. If we widen the aperture by which we see the world, then the solutions available to us becomes revealed. But it requires us to see things differently. The world doesn't change, it's you who changes. And as a result, we get something new.
Yeah. Louis, if I could piggyback on that, the asking is a big thing for me. And on the other side of that emotional transaction of the asking is the having, right? So if you don't think you're supposed to have, then you surely aren't even going to make the ask, right? So if we think about in financial terms, you're never going to outwork your worth. If we think about in romantic terms, you don't pick the partner you want, you pick the partner you think you deserve, right? This is all about what you believe you are worth, what you think it's okay to have, right? And so you got to start there when it comes to the asking, because what we're really talking about is, how do I get to the having part, right? And you can't do one without the power of belief, which is the other. So just really, you really need to be clear about what is that story you're telling yourself, right? One of my favorite quotes is, the only reason you don't have everything you want in this world is because of the story you keep telling yourself about why you can't have it. Right?
That's great.
If you tell yourself a different story, the asking gets a whole lot easier with just that one little shift.
I'm working on it, Dr. Ish. I'm working on it.
I'm working on it, and so am I, right? Let's think about everybody on this call. Think about Norense, think about Dr. Cosio, and think about what I do, right? If we're talking truth, right? The truth is, we all teach the thing we need the most, right? That's why I get up here and I talk about relationships and I talk about love, because it's the thing throughout my life that I've needed the most. It's the thing that I had when I was young. I was raised by 5 sisters, 8 aunts. My mom and dad were together for 56 years. I know what that looks like. And ever since I left home, I've been out here in the wilderness searching for it, right? So that's why I talk about it all the time. So, right, but it's all about, it's not necessary, right? Don't focus on the asking. The ask gets super, super simple when you know it's something you're supposed to have.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a bar. Not to cut you off. We teach the thing we need the most. I think that is so powerful and it's so important, because for me, not to cut you off, the inner critic, the negative voice, as you're posting. I post a lot of content on different things, and people ask me a question. I'm like, this is from God. It ain't from me. I don't know. And then your pride was to say, oh, it's me. I'm like, no. It's like you said. It's the humility to know. Okay. It's the renewing of your mind every single day. His word, the entrance of his word, give it light. He's the lamp to my feet, the light to my path, meaning he reveals, as you read the Bible, it reveals and it directs as well. And so it's so powerful that you just said that, because I found that when I'm saying things and I'm teaching things, it's like, dang, I needed that. So
Right. Exactly. Right. It's a part of our gift. It's a part of that natural thing. Right. And when you follow that path, not only is it nourishing others, but it's also nourishing you in return, as it's supposed to be.
We're going to take one final question, and this is for all of the panelists. And it's going to be sort of like a lightning question.
Okay.
3 things, just 3 things that will you suggest to our audience tonight that will be key to their success in 2025 and beyond? We're going to start with you, Dr. Ish. Since you're on fire already. We're going to start with you.
All right.
3 things.
So 3 things. The first thing I want everybody to realize is this isn't our first time here. This is not our first rodeo, right? We have been through things before. We will go through things again. The number 1 word for you is resilience, right? These are the times to tap into your resilience. Notice you're an athlete. There have been times where you've had to achieve higher and higher things on that court, and you had to use and build on the skill set you already had, right? But you had to remember you can do some things. So for us, it gets hard, right? So I want folks to know you can keep a resilient record, right? This is your record of all the things you faced, all the disappointment, the rejection, the hurt, the shame, the pain before, and come out on the other side of that emotional transaction more than okay. And if you're honest about it, you probably came out more whole than when you went in, right? Turned out better than you thought. Write that down. On the days where you need an extra dose of hope, an extra shot of peace, go back to your resilience record and see someone and remember some of the things that you have overcome that you thought you had no idea how you're going to get through, right? And do that. That's number one. That's your resilience records. Number two, realize that nobody's an invincible warrior. We are not invincible saviors, and nobody needs you to go out there and be the gladiator and sacrifice yourself and die on the cross, right? You can ask for help, right? You can ask your brother, your sister, you can find somebody, you can ask for help, right? When the question was, how do we lead young folks? Well, you lead by example, right? People will do as you are, right? And so number one, resilience. Number two, realize you're not an invincible warrior. Ask for help, right? And then let somebody help you, right? Because we always forget that part. That's the part. I don't know about anybody else on this call, but that's the part I don't do well, right? So that's the other thing. And then remember who you are. The third thing is just remember who you are. When you want to shut down, when you're feeling like I'm not going to share my gifts because this place I'm living don't appreciate it. Right. We're going to take the culture. We're going to put it in a box for the next 4 years, and we're not going to do anything. No, right? That's not how it works, right? Think of your existence. Why does the sun shine? It doesn't shine because of clout. The sun doesn't shine because it's getting paid to shine. It's not shining because it's going to go chilling up the coast on the Benz this weekend, right? It shines just because that's what it does, right? The sun shines because it's its nature to shine. It gives warmth and it gives life freely and asks for nothing in return. Yet, every single living thing on this planet turns to the sun for that nourishment and that sustenance, right? So that's how you got to be in the world. You got to be yourself, right? Who we are, we've always been thinkers, creators, innovators, makers, builders, right? That's what we do. Continue to do that. Not because of what you're going to get on the other side of that transaction. Simply that's just because of who you are. And show up and let them see all of it. And if you let them see all of it, you've done your job.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Dr. Modupe.
The question that has continued to come to my mind from some of the questions that I've seen posted from some of the chat is, what are you fearful of? And so I think one thing that you should ask yourself when you're in whatever space you're in, it's what are you fearful of? Whether it's you're making that job transition or whatever, there's some underlying fear. What is it? When you get in a rut mentally about what's going on in this government and politics, what is it that you're really fearing? Because sometimes that fear might have nothing to do with the circumstances around you and a deeper wound or trigger. So how can you get to that underlying hurt and pain that came from something totally different that's being triggered by what's going around you? So that's one thing. And maybe you can figure that out through therapy. If you have health insurance, the second thing I would say is get a therapist. And if you don't, find the right friends or crew who can guide you and help you through and listen in the way that you need to be listened to. And then the third thing is, one research after research has shown that when you're feeling down, if you do stuff for others, or, show gratitude or whatever, then that boosts your mood, it boosts your energy, and it also helps somebody else out. So kind of get outside of yourself and do something kind and loving for somebody else. And I promise you, it will make you feel differently. So those are some things to do.
Norense.
Yeah, great insights from everyone. You asked me three things. I got probably a lot, but to sum it up, it's really to what Dr. Ish said, and I think Dr. Collins said as well. It's about getting your hopes up and seeing yourself outside of where you are now. I'm by the Bible again. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And it's like, okay, if I get my hopes up, what am I hoping for in my life? Hope is the goal setter. It sets the goal, but you need more than hope to attain the goal. If I want to become this person, to have this money, whatever your desires are, because he honors the desires of your heart if you delight yourself in his word, but that's beside the fact. But whatever you're hoping for, you have to have a way to obtain the goal, the hope that you have. And that's what faith is for. And it's not on what you see. It's not on what you see, touch, feel, taste, smell. It's not in this sense realm. Because again, I can go for hours. We are spirits. We have souls, our mind, our will, our emotion, our conscience. We live in bodies. And we use this time that we have to, look at this, do this. Our body, our soul. I can touch my body now. I can touch your soul. I probably am by what I'm speaking. But you can't contact the spirit realm with anything. So that's where you apply your faith. And as you get in the word, for me, as you get in the word, and as a believer, I don't know how not to live my life without God. Like, that's why I'm saying God so much. And maybe even in my head, it's like, man, why are you saying God so much? I'm like, why is that the most contested thing in my mind to speak about? It always happens to me, but I'm like, no, you enable your servant to speak with boldness as I ought to speak. And those listening, I know, because again, I've never said this. You've had a fight with this your whole entire life. Your whole entire life, you've been pushed. You've been running away from God. God wants to have a personal relationship, specifically. Jesus Christ wants to have a personal relationship with you. And it's on you to say, oh, I've tried smoke, I've tried drink, I've tried worry, I've tried fear. Try Jesus. That's a try too. It's a try too. It's like, okay, if I read John, the thief, the enemy, the adversary after your life comes to steal, kill, destroy. And it's not like, how? Kill you. It's steal your sense of peace, steal your sense of self, steal your sense of hope, steal your vision, steal your dreams, steal your passion, steal your anything in life. And so now you're a shell of yourself. You don't even recognize yourself. It's time to say, okay. This brother that's got dry lips and long dread that don't know me is telling me, I should probably look at this book. And I'm not selling you nothing. You should probably look at the book. And if you don't want it, put it down. But for me, I don't know how not to give that modality or diagnose it, or give you that to live your life on. And what she said, Dr. Modupe, again, I believe faith in action, it's an action. It's an active thing. So it's like, yeah, get with a therapist. But also when you get with a therapist, get with a community of believers that say, okay, if I'm walking in line with this, I'm going to stick with it. Because I got with a community of drug dealers and all this when I was doing this on the side. Why can't you do the same? It's not some woo-woo thing. It's literally life. Your life is at stake. If you step out of this moment of your life right now and you see, okay, I'm placed here, because the Western world, we want to think, oh, we're so individualized. No, we're not. We are all connected. That's why this is so beautiful that we're doing it. We are all connected. So it's about the people after you as well. There's so many people that need you to activate the gifts inside of you, to serve the gift that you have inside of you, that are looking at you, but you keep looking at the fear, the pain. If the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, I know my Father God gave me a power, love, and a sound mind. I have a sound mind. Is to speak those things in your life, because what you speak becomes your life. So all this in summary, set a hope, what you're hoping for, be able to attain the goal with the faith. But, the entrance of his word giveth light, and it's daily bread. It's daily. It's like, dang, I don't know what to do today. Let me crack open a Proverbs, a wisdom word. Let me crack over. What did Jesus say about that when he was tempted on the mountain by Satan himself after 40 days? He had the enemy in his mind. Oh, just eat this food. Nope. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. That's, if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he forgot that. He forgot the spiritual realm. Man should not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. That's a need to live your life on. That's why we're searching. And so search the word is what I'd say.
Reverend Norense Odiase.
No, I'm not a reverend. I'm not. And I'll be running away from those titles. I'm not
Dr.
gonna
Collins, he don't know it's yet. All right.
Man, I'm fired up right now. Man, I'm fired up.
Dr. Collins, he don't know it yet. All right.
Yeah.
Right. Louis, if I could leave folks with just one more thing, man, I think this is super important. Norense just talked on it. Dr. Collins talked on it. Dr. Modupe. Everybody at some point in some of our answers tonight mentioned the word gratitude, right? So guys, if you could do one thing, right? This is something everybody can do. And I would highly encourage everybody to practice this when you wake up in the morning, right? When your eyes pop open, before your feet hit the floor, before you look for your slippers, before you grab your glasses, before you look at whoever's in the bed next to you, or think about who's not, think of 3 things you're grateful for, right? Just 3. It could be anything. I'm grateful because my eyes popped open today. I'm grateful for this place I'm living. I'm grateful because I'm going to get to go do a job and do a thing I love. Whatever it can be, whatever that is, it's just a simple gratefulness exercise, right? Before your feet hit the floor, before you grab the phone, before you check the text, before you see what you missed, before you see what Trump's doing today, do a gratefulness exercise, and it will dramatically shift the way that day is going to go for you, right? I was watching this thing with Michael J. Fox the other day, who's like suffering from Parkinson's, and his body's diminished in ways that, you know, that are just really even uncomfortable to watch. And he said something in this Parkinson's storm. He said, you know, I found that with gratitude, optimism is sustainable, right?
That was my 3rd thing, man. That was my 3rd
with
thing.
gratitude, optimism is sustainable. If you can find something to be grateful for, you can find something to look forward to, and you can carry on.
I mean, it's hard to be upset when you're grateful.
Dr. Marcus Collins, close us out.
I mean, that was my 3rd. It's hard to be upset when you're grateful. When you're grateful, you look at things and go, it could be worse. It could be this. I'm glad that I have that. So that's my 3rd, but I'll give you the 1st and 2nd. I mean, you all just sort of dance all over it. Y'all ain't leave me no room, but it's all good. It's all good. It's all good. It's all good. I love, Norense, you put it this way, this idea of faith. And I can't help but think about the idea that faith without works is dead. And as much as we have hopes and ambitions and beliefs and things that we hope to achieve, you have to do the work. You have to do the work, right? Take one step forward. You have to do the work. And my 3rd thing, because the first would be gratitude, is this. The most expensive real estate on the planet is the graveyard. And why is that? Because that's where ideas weren't manifested, companies weren't started, books weren't written, albums weren't recorded, movies weren't made. All the things that we hope to do tomorrow, we don't do because the timing's not right. Or I don't have this, or I don't have that. You know, we are on borrowed time, friends. Tomorrow's not promised for any of us. Die empty. Whatever's in you, get it out of you. And be grateful that you have that opportunity.
Thank you. I want to thank our sponsors, Event Noir and Channing Capital, for believing in the work that we're trying to do and the impact that we're trying to have. I want to end with 3 things myself. Number 1, get your memory back. Get your memory back. Because whatever you're going through now, or whatever you're dealing with, you've been through something before and you've come through it. So just remember that you've always come through it, been through it, and you've come through it. So get your memory back. Number 2, and this whole question that's been floating around, how do you ask for help? Just remember, every single successful person on the planet has had a waymaker. There's not one that has not had a waymaker. Some of us have had tons of waymakers. So just remember, just ask, because that's what waymakers are for. And be a waymaker yourself. And the final thing, just be courageous. Be courageous. Somebody has to step up. Why not you? Thank you so much. Reframing Your Vision. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, log-in audience. We appreciate you. Have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you next quarter. Thank you.